Found dead on an Edinburgh golf course. Her brother makes a new appeal for witnesses.
It's been really difficult for the whole family, especially for my parents as well. And we just go round and round in circles trying to think what happened, just not knowing.
It's also emerged that 5 Metropolitan Police officers are facing a misconduct investigation over the case. Also on the programme, the SNP's plan to keep the UK pound after independence may have been a mistake, according to a Nobel Prize-winning government advisor. Liam Fee's social worker is accused of failing to involve child protection workers in his case after he was found badly bruised. The seemingly glamorous lives of many footballers may mask mental health problems in the sport. And the amateur orchestra from Stirling hoping to strike the right note in a nationwide competition. Good evening. 5 Metropolitan Police officers are facing misconduct investigations over a missing woman whose body was found on an Edinburgh golf course. The remains of Saima Ahmed, who was from London, were found at Gogarburn Golf Club in January. Our reporter John McManus is there for us tonight. John.
Yes, Jackie, 5 Metropolitan Police officers now facing questions over how they handled the initial reports that Saima Ahmed had disappeared from her London home a year ago today. In January, her remains were found here at the golf course. 3 questions the police want answered. Why did she leave her home? How did she die? And why were her remains found here? Gogarburn Golf Course in January. It's here that the remains of Saima Ahmed were discovered and identified. But so far, that's all Police Scotland know about the circumstances surrounding the 36-year-old Londoner's death. Saima left her home near Wembley Stadium exactly a year ago today. Police believe she took the train to Edinburgh, but they don't know why or how her remains came to be at the golf course. So far, inquiries have drawn a blank. Today, her brother Sadat came to the golf course with police to try to jog memories. He says the family was devastated by news of her death.
My mum, who's at home on her own at the time, and she found out, and she was really upset and hysterical. And it was just, I don't know, before that you kind of have hope, right? That maybe she's okay, maybe she's somewhere and she's fine. But once you find that out, it's the end of it.
Saima's family say the Metropolitan Police ignored their pleas to upgrade the initial missing persons inquiry, meaning it was too late to recover potentially crucial CCTV footage of her movements.
Passage of time from when she went missing to when her remains were discovered here in Edinburgh, and that has been probably the single most significant challenge for this investigation, was that period of time between her going missing and her body being found, and it significantly hampered us piecing together her journey from London.
This morning, the Independent Police Complaints Commission announced that 5 Metropolitan Police officers were being investigated for misconduct and gross misconduct over the initial investigation into Saima's disappearance. Meanwhile, Police Scotland say they hope highlighting the anniversary of her disappearance will lead to fresh leads. Well, the whole Ahmed family is desperate for any leads as to what happened to their sister. That's why Sadat Ahmed came here today. He's hoping that by being here, somebody's memory will be jogged, somebody will remember a crucial bit of information about what happened to his sister. Jackie.
Thank you very much, John McManus there. One of the Scottish Government's key economic advisers says the SNP's plan to keep the pound after independence may have been a mistake. Later this week, it's expected Nicola Sturgeon will relaunch the party's independence campaign. But Nobel Prize-winning economist Joseph Stiglitz has urged Scotland to consider its own currency. The main opposition party said Scotland should keep the UK and the pound. Our political correspondent Nick Hardley reports.
Which currency would shoppers like these ones in Glasgow use if Scotland were to go it alone? That's a question the SNP will be exploring as it looks again at its argument for independence. And it's a question that matters not just because of the type of money that comes out of machines like this. The currency a country uses affects trade, and it affects what the cash in your bank account is actually worth.
What's best for Scotland is keeping the pound sterling.
In 2014, the Scottish Government argued for a currency union, sharing the pound we have now with the rest of the UK. But now this man, a key advisor to Nicola Sturgeon, says that might have been wrong.
They wanted the smoothest transition as possible, keeping our currency and keeping other forms of institutions. I think in hindsight, that may have been a mistake.
So what else could be on offer if there's another vote on independence? Keeping the UK pound is an option. So is joining the euro. The SNP and Professor Stiglitz don't like that. But might Scotland have to revisit if it wants into the EU as an independent country? And then there's a new currency, the so-called Scottish pound. Professor Stiglitz reckons that could help boost the economy.
What they would have needed to do, perhaps, is to resurrect the Scottish pound, let it float. Small countries can have their own currency.
But the political debate here too is important. The Conservatives and Labour say that Professor Stiglitz's comments show a fundamental problem with independence. Stay in the UK, they argue, and keep the UK pound. The SNP says there will have to be proper debate before it changes its mind on the currency question. But the Greens support that independent Scotland having its own new currency. The First Minister still believes another referendum is highly likely. So too further analysis of potential future options on the cash in your pocket. Nick Eardley, reporting Scotland.
A hearing into the conduct of a social worker who dealt with the murdered Fife toddler Liam Fee has been told she decided child protection workers shouldn't intervene after he was found badly bruised. A conduct hearing is examining charges against Leslie Bate involving a total of 16 children. Andrew Anderson, who's in Dundee, can tell us more this evening. Andrew.
Jackie, Leslie Bate is not attending the hearing that's being held here this week, but today we heard more about her time as a social worker with Fife Council's child protection team in Glenrothes. That came from Tracy Burke, who investigated her conduct. She said Leslie Bate was asked to investigate concerns over the welfare of Liam Fee. They had first been raised by his childminder back in January 2013. She'd been worried about bruises on the toddler, including a massive bruise on his forehead, and she was concerned he may have been knocked unconscious. Leslie Bate visited the family home and she accepted Liam's mother's explanation, and she recommended no further social work involvement. However, the childminder later raised further concerns about a neck injury to Liam, and Miss Bates' manager told her to speak to the childminder again so a decision could be made on whether to refer Liam's case to the department. However, Miss Burke told the hearing Leslie Bate had failed to follow up on the case, and there were no notes about it on the council's computer systems. She described those as unacceptable failings and said that allegations of child abuse should have been followed up in a robust manner. Liam Fee died in March 2014. He was murdered by his mother Rachel and her partner Naomi Fee. Leslie Bate faces 13 charges of failing to take the necessary steps to minimise actual or potential harm to children between December 2011 and August 2014. The case is being heard by the Scottish Social Services Council and is due to conclude on Friday. Ms Bate has relinquished her social work registration but does not admit any of the charges against her.
Thank you, Andrew. The continuing plight of migrants has been highlighted this week after 6,500 people were rescued from the Mediterranean in just one day. Agencies fear the continuing influx could overwhelm the camps set up to house them across Europe. But in his second special report from Serbia, our reporter Cameron Buttle has been to see how aid from Scotland is attempting to help.
100 years ago, a group of Scottish nurses came to northern Serbia to help their soldiers fighting in the First World War. They are still revered here, seen as an inspiration for people to help others. And that tradition continues today, as more and more refugees and migrants become trapped near the border with Hungary. Here supplies have to be tightly rationed, a small cup of noodles each.
When this camp was set up in December last year, it was meant to be a one-stop centre for people travelling through on their way to Northern Europe. But because of the changes in border crossings, people are now getting stranded here. There are 500 people in this one place alone.
They stop here about 2, 3, maybe 4 months.
And that is an enormous strain on the local aid workers.
Više od godinu dana angažovani smo na humanitarnom zbrinjavanju migranata.
The problems that we're facing now is that our capacities are overstretched. Our people are volunteers who are doing this for 12 months now, 24 hours a day.
A few miles away, this warehouse was full of aid sent from Scotland, but it's emptying fast.
The capacities are maxing out and they need replenishing with resources such as clothing, foods, food stocks, flour, different types of star items. Serbia can deal with the problem, but they need help.
Back in Glasgow, they're sorting through the next loads. 2 trucks will be heading to Serbia soon, but they say it's not enough.
The reality is that the scale and the number of people that are arriving in mainland Europe and transiting through Europe to get to places like Glasgow, Germany, Sweden, etc., we can only provide a small amount of what they need. The numbers are so vast.
In Serbia, agencies are predicting a second wave of refugees. But even now, they say they're just having to deal with it day by day and hope for the best. This hospital was set up by Dr. Catherine MacPhail from Glasgow to help the people of Serbia. It closed many years ago, but out of sight, a small family of refugees now live here. Perhaps something she would approve of. Cameron Buttle, reporting Scotland, Subotica, Northern Serbia.
And still to come on tonight's Reporting Scotland. The escalating war of words following the deaths of birds of prey on Highland grouse estates. And disappointment as the last Scot hoping to get into the Ryder Cup team misses out. People who suffered child abuse have met the Deputy First Minister to find out what progress has been made in the national inquiry into the issue. There's been criticism of the inquiry after the resignation of its previous chair in July and accusations that its remit was too narrow. Well, our reporter Hugh Williams was at today's meeting in Edinburgh and he joins us now. So what did they learn, Hugh?
Jackie, 2 separate meetings at St Andrew's House, the building behind me this afternoon, for survivors and victims of abuse to hear firsthand from John Swinney exactly what's changed since he last saw them in July. That earlier meeting prompted, as you say, by the resignation of the inquiry chair and another panel member. And there'd been hopes from some campaigners that that would provide an opportunity effectively to reboot the whole inquiry process, to look again at its remit, should it only consider accusations of abuse against children in residential care, and to reopen the question of redress, compensation for survivors of abuse. From those who met the Deputy First Minister this afternoon, a strong declaration that their search for justice goes on.
I spoke to him about the fact that they did it with the quarriers, with the time to be heard. People came forward from quarriers, spoke about their experiences. A report was written up at the end of it, and that report's probably in the long grass somewhere. You can't keep doing that to survivors, because what you're then doing is you're re-abusing them.
I want to find out if it's a cover-up or if it's just ineptitude or they're not grasping the scale of the problem. But we need to get this right, and we only have one chance. People have denied justice for decades. We need to get it right now.
John Swinney, the Deputy First Minister, issued a statement in the last half hour saying that he'd had a constructive and positive meeting, that they'd discussed ongoing issues with the public inquiry and the rollout of a new national support network. And he said it was important that Minister carried on liaising with and listening to survivors of abuse. Jackie.
Thank you very much, Hugh. Problems with mental health aren't usually associated with professional athletes, but a survey of Scottish footballers has found that of 600 players questioned, 2/3 either had a mental health issue or knew a teammate with a problem. Rona McLeod reports.
They are the sporting stars of Scotland's most popular game, but new research shows that many are struggling with their mental health.
We surveyed all the SPFL players, getting a return of over 600, which is a sizable number. And 64% of them, either themselves or someone they knew closely, a teammate or a friend, had mental health issues in the recent past.
Of course, the perception is that footballers have enviable, desirable lifestyles. So why are so many of them affected with mental health issues?
They're young, active males, and as you know, that's a group that engages less well with health professionals and particularly with mental health. And while in Scotland we do have some footballers that earn a lot of money, the vast majority will be part-time and will have 2 jobs and the same family issues, employment issues, same worries and concerns that everyone else has.
Good header across. Windass. Great goal by Windass!
He was a hero to Aberdeen fans in the 90s, but Dean Windass reveals 2 suicide attempts amid severe depression.
I can't remember the 2 occasions. The only time I can remember is when I woke up on the kitchen floor with tablets and spew all over. So it wasn't a good feeling.
Neil Lennon too struggled in his playing career.
I'd be in a room full of people and just feel the loneliest guy in the world, and the only thing I wanted to do would, either lie in bed or shut myself away. Eventually, once I was taking the antidepressants and they started to kick in, slowly started sort of seeing the light again.
There's almost a fear of coming out and the stigma attached to mental health. If footballers can say it's all right to say that you're not okay, then perhaps we can encourage particularly young men who, as I mentioned, engage poorly and have the high suicide risk in society to come out and accept help and look for help.
The new programme will be offered to clubs, players and coaches throughout Scottish football. Rona McLeod, reporting Scotland.
Investigations are continuing into the disappearance of several birds of prey around grouse shooting estates in the Highlands. Earlier this month, the RSPB said a rare hen harrier had been lost in the same area that a number of golden eagles have gone missing. But gamekeepers are hitting back, one claiming that incidents could be part of a conspiracy to close down their sport and axe their jobs. Craig Anderson can tell us more.
These are special chicks. Scotland is home to just 500 breeding pairs of hen harriers, and the population has been declining. So when a satellite-tagged bird simply disappeared off the radar, those monitoring its progress voiced their suspicions, especially as hen harriers do predate on grouse.
These transmitters are exceptionally reliable pieces of kit. They cost about £3,000 a time. They've been fitted to birds of prey and other species all over the world and are very, very reliable. So for something like this to happen is strongly suggestive of human interference.
The hen harrier disappeared in the same area in which the RSPB says 8 golden eagles have also gone missing in the past 5 years. But one gamekeeper who knows these hills well believes there's now a conspiracy afoot to deliberately target people who manage grouse moors.
I believe there's no evidence being produced, and I don't even know if it's a police matter, if the police have been informed. Normally, if a crime has been committed, you should call in the police and the culprit should be put in front of a court of law. This is a kangaroo court that's going on here at the moment, and I just can't agree with that.
The Scottish Government has already warned land managers that it's considering a licensing scheme for shooting estates to ensure they behave ethically. That's what the RSPB wants. Other pressure groups have called for grouse shooting to be outlawed altogether. The suspicion among many people within the shooting lobby is that this whole controversy about the disappearance and deaths of birds of prey has been whipped up by conservationists with one aim in mind, and that is the shutting down of grouse shooting altogether. Make no mistake, there is a battle taking place over these tranquil hillsides. The casualties appear to be the birds of prey. Craig Anderson reporting Scotland in Inverness-shire.
And now look at other stories from across the country. It's emerged that about 40 pieces broke off the Transocean Winner oil rig when it hit rocks at Dalmore Bay on the west side of Lewis. Dive teams have been examining the damaged installation. Now it's been refloated and towed to a safe anchorage on the other side of the island at Broad Bay. Councillors in Edinburgh have agreed to proceed with an ambitious cycle path that will link east to west Edinburgh. However, they've agreed to set up a working group to finalise details of the route. Some local businesses have opposed the route because they fear it'll have a negative impact on trade, while supporters say it'll boost fitness and improve air quality. 4 conservation charities have joined forces to oppose plans for a new Championship Links golf course near Dornoch in Sutherland. They claim the project would destroy one of Scotland's last remaining undeveloped coastal dune habitats if it gets the go-ahead. What's said to be the world's most powerful tidal energy turbine is about to enter its final stage of testing at the European Marine Energy Centre in Orkney. It's estimated that the device is capable of generating 2 megawatts of electricity, enough to power around 1,000 homes a year.
What the sector has converged on initially was what looks like an underwater turbine, so turbines on towers at the bottom of the seabed, whereas we've approached the challenge in a very different way, where we've mounted the turbines on a floating platform.
Members of Edinburgh's Transport Committee have voted to push ahead with proposals to put Lothian buses under the direct management of the arm's-length company Transport for Edinburgh that owns Edinburgh Trams. The decision came despite protests outside the city chambers by workers who fear that profits from one of the last remaining municipal bus companies in the UK will be used to pay for the extension of the tram line to Leith. A stray rhea that had been on the loose for a month in South Lanarkshire has been captured, but its fellow escapee is still on the run. The flightless birds, which are related to ostriches and emus, broke out from a small holding in Wilson Town near Forth. There will be no Scots in this year's European Ryder Cup team after Russell Knox from Inverness failed to make Darren Clarke's final selection. It's the first time since 2010 that the country hasn't had a representative, as David Curry can tell us.
My first wildcard is...
Time for the big Ryder Cup reveal. The captain about to announce his wild card picks.
Lee Westwood. My second wildcard is Martin Kamer. And my third wildcard is Thomas Peters.
No place for Scots contender Russell Knox. He narrowly missed out on one of 9 performance-based automatic qualification spots. Now he's missed out on a captain's discretionary pick.
There was a lot of competition for those picks, but we should certainly be disappointed, and I'm sure Russell Knox will be disappointed and probably angry. Everyone who's been picked is lower in the world rankings than he is. No one's won the events that he has this year.
Knox has lost out to Lee Westwood, the world number 46, Martin Keimer, who's ranked at 50, and rookie Thomas Peters, ranked 41st.
And having to phone Russell yesterday and give him the information is probably one of the toughest phone calls I've ever had to make. Some people would say he deserved his position on the team, but you know, I took a look at it and put them side by side, and I've always been a huge Thomas Peters fan from my first witnessed how he hits the golf ball and how he plays.
From the roaring 20s to the 21st century, Scots golfers have played prominent roles in Ryder Cup teams. Not this year, though. David Curry, reporting Scotland.
Well, after Bake Off, we've got perhaps Playoff now. An amateur orchestra based in central Scotland is hoping to prove it's the best in Britain. Stirling Orchestra is the only Scottish finalist in a BBC competition which begins tonight. It's meant months of intense rehearsal, as Natalie Higgins reports.
Isn't this exciting?
Exciting and perhaps just a little terrifying. Stirling Orchestra takes to the stage. Nerves drawn as tight as the strings.
1, 2.
It's round 1 to find the UK's top amateur orchestra. Stirling are flying the flag for Scotland. The conductor is confident.
We have a huge range of abilities, if you like, within the orchestra, but you can still achieve a really successful concert if you look for everyone to play together well.
Back in Stirling, it's practice night for the players and their followers. The piece is demanding, but the effort brings rewards.
Coming to orchestra once a week sort of forces you into that routine of having to get the instrument out of the case, you know, on a regular basis, and you know that in turn improves your playing, you know, over a longer period of time, and it's enjoyable as well.
250 orchestras from across the UK tried out for this classical battle of the bands. Stirling made it to the final 5. The judges, though, want some fine-tuning.
You're good, but you don't do what's in the parts.
There were just 8 weeks between the first rehearsal and the first knockout round. It's meant a lot of hard work. They're hoping to inspire others.
I really hope that those people who have got violins under the bed and trumpets in the cupboard will be inspired to dust them down and come along and be welcomed as I was all those years ago.
For this orchestra, music is more a passion than a profession, and they're going all out to show they're the best in Britain. Natalie Higgins, reporting Scotland.
Good luck to them. And you can see how Stirling get on tonight at 9 o'clock on BBC4 in All Together Now, the Great Orchestra Challenge. Hi, Kirsteen, how's the weather?
Thank you very much, Jackie. Good evening to you. We've had a fine day of weather across much of the country with some decent spells of brightness and some sunshine. Temperatures responded quite nicely in the sunshine, widely 20 to 22 Celsius, with a high of 25 Celsius in Leuchars in Fife. Not too bad at all for the end of August. Not everywhere, though, has seen the sunshine. Indeed, we've had some rain feeding into the Western Isles during the afternoon. This evening and tonight, that continues to spill in through much of the northwest. Some fairly heavy pulses of rain for a time, gradually tracking its way eastwards during the night and generally becoming that bit lighter and patchier as it does so. The rain will be accompanied by fairly brisk southwesterly winds, perhaps even touching gale force for a time across the Western Isles and for northwestern coastal areas. A mild night, though, to come for all of us, with temperatures no lower than around 11 or 12 Celsius. Into tomorrow morning then, we see this rain clearing fairly quickly to the east, and behind that we have fairly brisk west to southwesterly winds which will drive in a number of showers, especially through western and northern areas. So taking a closer look tomorrow afternoon around 4 o'clock, some showers to come across the southwest for central areas, in through much of the west coast towards the Western Isles and the northwest Highlands. There will be some bright or sunny spells in between the showers. However, the best of the sunshine tomorrow is likely the further east you are. Fewer showers here, although for all of us it will tend to be a fresher feel tomorrow with those brisk winds. Temperatures generally around 15 to 20 Celsius. Now for the evening period, we continue along the theme of some sunshine and also some showers. However, during Wednesday night, a ridge of high pressure will build in, which will result in some dry and fairly settled conditions as we head into Thursday, although this rain will tend to arrive later. So Thursday in the morning, just a few showers across the northwest, otherwise dry and bright, although we will see some rain arriving from the west later. That's the forecast. Jackie.
Thank you very much, Kirsteen. And that's it from us. Our next main bulletin is just after the 10 o'clock news. Until then, from everyone on the Reporting Scotland team, enjoy the rest of your evening. Goodbye.